about overunity. A lot of people don't think that this can be done. I know it can. Every single part that you're going to see today is a guide in how to create that overunity. Is it closed loop? Is it open loop? Is it a combination of both? Well, let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to be talking primarily today about our rodent coil. Now, is this thing going to do 0-point energy? No. It's only half the system. Is it going to do overunity? Yes, it will. Now, I'm going to give you a circuit today, and we're going to get into exactly how this works. And I'm going to shoot in some clips as I do this, so that you can better see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, let's get into this. First things first, we're going to need a circuit to run this. Now, most people will tell you, let's just go ahead and build a circuit, build a jewel thief, run it on positive energy through it, and it's going to work out fine. The first thing you need to learn in this whole system is that doesn't work. That is going to have loss in the system immediately because all of the parts heat up in the jewel thief circuit. As soon as you have that, you have loss. You are at a 30% loss coming out of the gate. A lot of people cannot overcome that. So why even fight it? Let's build something that's better. Let's build a cold circuit. Let's do things where we can make the circuit take less out of the heat that is produced. And let's even see if we can't get those circuits to cool down in the process. Let's take a look at the circuit. Flip this thing around. This right here is a cold energy circuit. Why is it cold? Well, the idea is to run it through the negative, not push it through the positive. As you look at this, you're going to tell me some of these things are backwards on these diodes. You're also not going to find one resistor in here. So let's get to what it does, not what it doesn't do. This right here is our negative, not our positive. This is where a lot of people get messed up. Hot energy circuit, this would normally be a positive. Instead, it's our negative. What are we trying to do? We're not trying to push into this coil. That's not it at all. I'm going to create a hot draw right here. This draw is going to want to pull in my negative. It's going to tell the circuit right then and there, I'm the hot, I'm over here, pull to me. Now, this goes through here, down to here, into there. Now, when I'm telling you the negatives pull through, what did I do? Well, when you push positive, you're pushing the amps, you're pushing the heat. You're pushing the heat through your circuit, right? Well, I'm not doing that. I'm pulling the cold. The cold side of a battery is negative. Therefore, I'm pulling it through the coil, through here, to my transistor. Now, I'm pulling it off that's cold. See, that's a different understanding than what you're taught in school, isn't it? You say, well, if you're pulling on the cold side or the negative side, right? People say, use a PNP. What's the problem with the PNP? You have to create a resistance between the two, or a gap of energy right there for it to turn on and off. We don't want that. That requires a resistor. A resistor is heat in the system. We absolutely do not want heat in our system. Therefore, we use an NPN instead of a PNP. Now, pull it through, pulls through the hot, turns on the light, make sure the hot does not go back anywhere towards this cold side. That stays cold. That's what the neon light's here for. This is our cat bank. We're dropping energy into our cat bank. We're also running it back to our positive. Here's the thing. As you run this energy, you're running it back to the battery. That's not well understood. Why would you run it back to the battery? Well, because now you're going to take the energy that comes off of the coil. Once you build it in here, it's going to have extra energy. When that comes back and flows back here, it's going to refill your battery. We have just created a loop system, yes, looped, that has an open value right here. You said, well, why is that open value? Well, that's what we're going to get into next. So now that we have the circuit, and I will link in the description a full breakdown of this circuit, but we have the general idea of what we're doing. We could put any frequency we want into it with a frequency generator or signal generator right here. We have our coil. We have our system. We know it's pulling back here and refilling the battery. We know that we pull the cold through the whole system. Now let's flip this over. Now, let's start to have a little fun with this. Why did I say it was a closed system, yet the coil was open? Here's your understanding. This is my coil. There's the center of it. There's my two wires coming off. Now, when you pull it cold, you're creating a temperature differential in the room. If the room is 71 degrees, this coil is going to start out at 71 degrees. Shouldn't be any controversy on that. Room temperature, temperature of the coil, right? Now what happens when I start to run the circuit through it? Simply running this through it, coming back out the other end. Now, as it runs through here, because it has no heat on it, because I did not use the positive side of the battery, I pulled the negative side through it. Because of that, I have no heat in it. What starts to happen? This temperature here, right through the center here, starts going down. It'll continue to go down the longer you run it. Now, you say, well, when it gets to 71 degrees here and 67 degrees here, what starts to happen in your room? Well, it's a pretty simple understanding to a system. The room itself starts to interact with your coil. It doesn't like that it's a different temperature than the room itself. Therefore, the 71 tries to go in there. But when it's doing that, what are you doing? You're picking up energy from the room itself. The room has decided, the sea of energy in your room has decided, we want to go over to the cold spot. So it now flows into that area. You say, well, why doesn't it necessarily just go right here? If you want it to go in the center, that's the correct spot. Well, the funny thing about the rodent coil is it's a continuous loop to the center, just like this, in one winding. So yes, it is going here, but what happens? Redirected in there. You see, the rodent coil itself is the image of energy flowing through a coil. When you put it into the coil and build it that same way, the energy flow pattern is already set. Now, you have this coming in and going through and still going here. It's still, through every one of them, has now created the ability to go through here. What happens here now? You say, well, Nathan, there's already a lot of arrows going in there. Well, yes, there is. So what happens? As there's more flow that goes in, the amount of energy in the center increases. You see, you don't just have the energy from the rodent coil itself, you have the energy from the room coming into it. So in addition to the primary circuit running, you now have additional energy from that room coming in. That's why it's partially an open circuit. The closed circuit portion is returning energy back to your battery through the circuit itself. This right here is building up more energy. So when we go back and look at our circuit, you remember here, we're bringing it back right there to the positive. Now that this is increased, so if this started out at 10 volts, we should now get 20 volts if you picked up the room properly. It goes back into the system. 10 volts goes here to the cap, while you have a percentage loss at 9 volts going back in there. Now, why do I say it's 9 volts? Anything running through any system that goes through anything, including diodes, will have a loss to it. We're just saying that it's going to drop a little bit, but not all of it. And your cap bank over here is going to take most of the energy out. Now, that's a cool system. We just created a way to make unity in the system and to get a little bit of extra energy. So you could say I'm 110, 120% to unity, if you built it that way. And that'd be all right. But that's not what we want to do here. You see, there's a reason there's a signal generator in here. You know, you could put just about any frequency. The frequency here, the exact timing that this switches could be your frequency. But that's not what we wanted. You see, we wanted a signal generator in here because we want to control the frequency. Let's go back to the coil. Now, we're just going to draw a clean coil here. We understand the temperature differential and what we're doing. We understand why we're doing it. We're doing it because it draws in more energy. If you run this in a hot system, by the way, if you run this on a hot system, you blow the heat out everywhere. That should be pretty well known. It's hysteresis. It's a loss. Blowing it out, wasting it. We're not doing that. We're confining. We're confining the energy. We're pulling in the heat from the room into it. It's a difference in understanding, but it's one you'll have to have. Now, let's draw this coil again. Why I draw wiggly lines around a coil, I don't know, but it just seems right. Okay. Now, what do we need to do with the signal generator? And what do we need to do to this coil to improve this circuit? You see, I only drew one side of the rodent coil. So let's draw the other now. You see, here's our one. This is our first one. The other one drops 180 degrees. Okay? Now, this is out of phase to the other rodent coil winding. Why is that important? Well, because now we're going to start to play with it. See, rodent build it all as one, but your mind has to be able to separate it as two separate entities. If you can do that, then this makes sense. 180 degrees out of phase. We want to put our frequency in here, and we want this coil right here on this side to resonate with the one that's on this side. Why would we want to resonate something? comes to a very simple understanding of a Tesla coil. If you take your primary Tesla coil and start it, and take a number 2 coil only, with nothing attached to it, but put it next to that primary running Tesla coil, that frequency itself, if it matches that number 2 coil sitting right there, will make that number 2 coil turn on. It'll start to produce plasma out of both sides. It will have a vortex going up, a vortex going down, and a null zone in the center.
Look at that plasma swirl. That's absolutely beautiful. Well, that's the line that's supposed to go into the ground too. Funny thing about this, is this secondary Tesla coil isn't attached to anything. It just resonates based on this one here. So cool.
Why would we want that? One of the greatest understandings of frequency and resonance you can have. It picked up energy. You did not put a wire to it. It simply sat by itself. In resonance, it picked up plasma energy that pushed out both sides of that coil. It is a completely different understanding. We now have energy produced by the resonance alone. That is a huge understanding. Now we put it into a circuit that's already doing good. We already got it past the heat hurdle. Now we're on to, can we resonate this thing? If you have the 2 coils here and here, I now resonate them at the same frequency that is optimal to the winding itself. It's just like a Tesla coil. When you find the resonance frequency of a Tesla coil, that's exactly what you need to do here in this coil. What frequency will give you the highest value on your oscilloscope when you run it? So you're going to scroll through, you're going to find it, and that's the frequency you're going to put into it. When this right here gets both frequencies put into it, your amount of energy, okay, goes up. Again, we're creating an overunity here. We have to have some force of multiplier right here. We need a source for the multiplier. It's right here. It's interesting, isn't it? What does that mean for your circuit? If I flip this board back over and show you, all we're going to do is create a second one, and we're going to put it right next to it. We don't need to change any of the connections. We just need to add for a secondary coil. And I would certainly say that the rodent coil, you can't understand it when it's bent, brought back over the other side. That's the way it is. Just make it 2 coils. Make your life a little simpler if that's all it takes to get your head in the game. I'm okay with that. I generally build 2 coils for everything. So, that's cool with me. But, 2 circuits, 2 coils, 2 understanding. Now, when this resonates, all that plasma energy you saw in the Tesla coil number 2 winding that's out of the other side, now you're going to see it here, but it's now going to flow into that cat bank. You say, well, we got more energy before. Now how much more energy we're getting? You see, that's the point of overunity. The other stuff, when you put it in the cold end, means that you just about have no loss in the system. I said 20 volts, 10 volts. It could be a little bit less than that. But please understand, you're still pulling extra energy from it. Like I said, it's barely over the top. 100, 110, 115. Not much. You hit resonance. 200, 250, 300 times. That's where you're starting to go. Everything is only about the time that this thing runs. The longer it runs, the colder it gets. Some people go, well, Can I just put things in a freezer? Can I take some liquid nitrogen and cool it down? No. No. You're confusing the cause and effect. The cause is the temperature differential. The effect is the coil itself will get colder and it'll hold in the energy. Do not confuse the cause with the effect. The resonance itself is the cause for the energy to spike. Because it's resonant one coil to the next, that's your energy pickup. 100%, no question. That's your overunity point. In any system, that is your overunity point. When you can resonate one coil, and you can pay for that with your battery, the other one is free. The other one is a mirror to it. It is free. It is now your overunity. You have to pull the environment of the room into the coil to get it. That's the understanding here. We are now creating overunity in our system. I did a test a little while back, and I wanted to see if every coil that I had could do it. And I just used two. I go, well, let's take the rodent coil, and everybody loves the pancake coil, bifilar pancake coil. So I said, can I just put a known cold energy into one of those systems? And can I get that to retain the energy in it? Pretty simple question, right? So I said, I'm going to take a Tesla coil and put the rod down the center. I know that that is cold. I know it's working on the cold side of a Tesla coil. Okay. Let's find out if it is the cold side. Based on what we know of pulling the energy into the room, is it going to be? So as I did this test, very simply, I put the wire down the center of the Tesla coil and hooked it to one connection on the rodent coil. Then, once it filled up for a few minutes, I pulled the wire out of the top of the Tesla coil. Normally, everything shuts off. If you pulled a hot circuit, everything would shut off. It would not retain energy. In this system, because there was a temperature differential, until the center temperature got back to room temperature, it retained energy. Absolutely amazing.
The wire's in. We now have the coil turning it on. Pull the wire out. You can see it dims a little bit, and it'll start to dim until it goes out. That's cool, isn't it? Let's do it again. We'll put the wire down the Tesla coil. Lights up pretty bright, guys. There is no direct connection to this Tesla coil. The wire's just down the center of it. So, there you go. You can see the light? There's the wire. I just got it hanging down the center. That's it. Bright as can be. Let me give it a little more juice. Let me see what I can get out of this. So, I'm getting that light bulb. I'm not getting the other ones. Again, there's your wire. Right now, about 17 volts. As we can see, the Tesla coil is running. Light's not on. Here's our wire. Place it down the Tesla coil. And there we go. Okay. So now, remove the wire. Still has resonance in it. It's dying off. You can see it getting smaller. Yeah, there we go again. We'll do it again. Wires down the Tesla coil. Lights on. Wires out of the Tesla coil. Light's still on. It's going down. The winding is exactly the same inside and out on that bifilar coil. It's no different than the rodent coil. Now it goes out. Okay.
Let's go on to another part here. Our rodent coil, you know that it has a bunch of wires coming out of it. Do they all need to go to your circuit? That's really what you need to ask yourself. I know how Rodin said to do it. I know that they said to put them all together. But the answer is no. It doesn't. You see, not everything has to go back in the same way. One of the reasons that they use a joule thief circuit on any of this stuff is because you're saturating this coil. You see, not a lot of people understand saturation. Let's do it in this way. I'm just going to do it in a pancake fashion, right? This is a pretty simple understanding, right? I'm going to build this pancake coil right here. And I'm going to pay for that. Okay? Big money. I'm just going to pay for it, right? Right here, running. Electrical fields will be produced out of this. They're a waste. Let me make you understand that. They're an absolute waste of energy until you utilize them. I want another one, and 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 another one. Until I get to the point where I cannot pull any more energy out of one of those. When I get to the point where this right here has said no more, you can have no more, you greedy individual. You can have no more energy. That's the max I'm going to give you. Okay. I'm all right with that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have 4 more coils that were energized by my original coil. Well, hold on. What's going on there? I just used what it gave me. I didn't try to change it. I just made sure saturation of this field meant that I can put in more pancake coils in order to get more energy out. I didn't change any law of anything. You see, that's the open part of the system right there. You've created the field with the paid part, the loop system. The unpaid part is the part that you take away from every part of it that it'll give you in that system. Every bit of value that magnetics gave you, now you're taking it back. That's how you start to understand overunity. I want more. I just keep wanting more. You give it all to me. I'm greedy. I want all of it. Okay, you can't have any of it back. Take it. I put it in my cap bank. Now I own it. I own this for free. I did pay for this. Fairly easy understanding. So what do you do with the rodent coil? Do all the windings need to go in there and return back in the circuit? Or can I start cap banking? See, the point of saturation means that every wire in that coil is saturated with energy. That magnetic field is all over that coil. You cannot erase it. You cannot change it. Once the circuit's on it, it's in there. Now, how many times can I pull it before it tells me no more? That's the point where you get more energy out. Overunity itself is an understanding of energy flow. If you push positive energy through your system, you get hysteresis and you'll heat things up, and you won't have it. You can get close back to unity, but you'll never have the efficiency you need. If you pull the cold through the circuit, now you're playing in a lot more dimensions. Now you're not just playing with the circuit itself, you're playing with the coil itself. You're playing with the temperature in the room itself. Now ask yourself, I'm standing in a room in an enclosed environment, so I just talk about the energy that I'm in the room with. If I take it outside, I have the whole world at my disposal for the energy. The energy is a sea of energy. Tesla told you that. He also told you to resonate things, to pull more energy into your system. The understanding is profound. The build is really easy. It's getting someone to understand the difference between pulling something cold through your circuit and running something hot. 99% of people will fail at this because they will continue to run the hot through the system, not knowing that you should be pulling the negative through the system. You don't want resistors. You don't want heat barriers. You don't want anything like that. In cold energy, anything that comes from the negative part, you simply want a draw, which is something that has a little bit of heat to it. And then you want to go into a cap bank right after that. There's plenty of ways to change this once you fill up your cap bank into any kind of energy you want. You can convert it to AC, to DC, anything you'd like. Okay? World is your oyster. I'm not going to stop you from any of that. Please do it. What I am telling you, though, is you want to build in the return in the circuit. You want to create the energy in the circuit as it goes. You want to resonate it, and you want to take heat out of the equation and bring cold into the equation. The second you can understand this circuit as it gets colder in your room, you have the understanding of overunity. For those who continue to run it hot, I'm sorry. You failed. You have to start over until you start to learn your lesson. Put it in cold first, or negative, however you want to preference it, and let's get this party started. That said, have a great day. Thank you.
The old man will. The old man will. The old man will. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man wheels of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time. Battling the establishment for just a little recognition has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds,